Okay, so now we move into our gospel passage, which keeps us with Mark chapter 1, verses 29 through 39. Follows right up after last week's gospel passage. So let's read it. On leaving the synagogue, Jesus entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with a fever. They immediately told him about her. He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up. Then the fever left her, and she waited on them. When it was evening, after sunset, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. The whole town was gathered at the door. He cured many who were sick with various diseases, and he drove out many demons, not permitting them to speak because they knew him. Rising very early before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Simon and those who were with him pursued him, and on finding him said, "Everyone is looking for you." He told them, "Let us go on to the nearby villages, that I may preach there also. For this purpose have I come." So he went into their synagogues, preaching and driving out demons throughout the whole of Galilee. Okay, there we go. So okay, on leaving the synagogue. So what happens in the synagogue? This is going to be a really important thing. What happens in the synagogue? Do you remember from last week? In the synagogue, Jesus, what does he do? He drives out a demon. He cures a demoniac. So this, of course, causes a big stir because people are amazed, it says at the end. What is this? With authority, he drives out demons. A new teaching. This is really important. So, like, the people see this, and so what's going to happen? Well, imagine you go to church, and at church on Sunday, at Mass, someone gets up from within the congregation and does something miraculous, drives out a demon. What's going to happen? You're going to go home, and you're going to be like, you're going to talk to everyone you know. People are going to post about it on social media. You'll never believe what happened at Mass this morning. You'll never believe it. And then you're going to tell them about how this person just got up and did this miraculous thing and drove out a demon, right? Like that's what's going on. So in other words, people are talking, and so it makes sense that we're going to get to this in the second paragraph, that when it was evening, they brought to him all who were ill or possessed by demons. So like everybody. But notice, before we get there, Jesus has to kind of set the stage for us, and I think this is great. So it's like he goes from the synagogue to Simon Peter's house, and he's got to do something first. So Simon Peter, he goes in with Simon and Andrew, with James and John. Simon's mother-in-law lay sick with fever. Now this is important. So we know our priests today to be celibate priests, and the understanding is that maybe all of the apostles were celibate at one point in time, but there's not it's not definitively taught that every one of them was celibate. Actually, Simon has a mother-in-law, which if you have a mother-in-law, that means you have a wife. So but notice who's missing from this passage. Who's missing is Simon's wife. So Saint Jerome, one of the church fathers, he suggests actually that Simon was a widower, because it's not just that his wife is missing, it's that it's his mother-in-law who does the serving. And so if she's in Simon's house and Jesus is in Simon's house, typically it would have been the mother or the woman of the house. It would have been Simon's wife who would do the serving, but she's not the one who does the serving. Instead, Jesus cures her, and from there she begins to serve. So perhaps Simon was a widower. We don't really know. But what we do know is that Jesus is able to cast out even sickness. She was sick with a fever. And Jesus, what does he do? He approached, grasped her hand, and helped her up, and then the fever left. And notice also, when she's healed by Jesus, what does she do? She gets up and she waits on them. So this I think is just a really good principle. When Jesus heals us, it would be a really fitting thing to serve him then, to wait on him, to get him whatever he needs. Okay, so now that sets the stage so that when the people come, the house, we could say, is like put in order. So Jesus goes into this house that has got some sickness, that's got some illness, that maybe some things are out of order. Jesus brings healing so that the house could be put in order so that the rest of the people could come. So the rest of the people coming, the entire town, all who were ill, possessed by demons, the whole town was gathered at. You got to imagine the chaos of this scene. Again, imagine your town, however big, however small your town is. It wouldn't have been like a huge city, but imagine like the entire town. Maybe there's some exaggeration going on here, but lots of people are at the door just waiting. They're just trying to get a glimpse of Jesus, trying to get him to heal things. I've got this thing, I've got this rash, I've got whatever it is. Like, bring me Jesus, bring me to Jesus so that he can heal me. And so it says he cured many who were sick with various. He drove out many demons. and he did not permit them to speak because they knew him. Now, this is what's called the messianic secret. There's this tendency in the Gospels for Jesus to cure people, to drive out demons, and to tell them to not tell anybody about it. The messianic secret, it's not like an official thing, but it just seems like there's a lot of evidence for it in the Gospels, where Jesus knows that if his identity is revealed, then this would bring about things much sooner than is appointed. We could say he knows that it's not quite his time yet for him to enter into his glory, which is going to result, of course, in his crucifixion, in his death, and then in his resurrection. So he needs time to do what? He needs time to show his power. He needs time to preach and to teach. He needs time to set up his church. Right? This is an important thing, that he comes to do all these things, and among all those things is to set up a church so that when his time comes, he dies and he rises and he ascends back up into heaven because his sacrifice is complete, he intends to set up a church so that his church can be his continued presence on earth. That's an important thing. So he needs time for that, and so he tells them, don't talk about this yet. Don't talk about this. Okay, now, so you go from the chaos of the day, right? So there's like three kind of movements in this passage, of course, right? So he leaves the synagogue so that he can cure Simon's mother-in-law and get the house ready so that when the house is ready, the people can come, and all the people can come with all their diseases and illnesses and all these things, and he can heal them. Like lots of pandemonium, lots of chaos, lots of noise and distractions, all these things. Once that's over, what does he do? Well, okay, the night comes, and then rising very early before dawn, he left and went off to a deserted place where he prayed. Jesus prays. And when is it that he prays? Well, he lets himself be inconvenienced by his need to pray. Because what does he do? He rises very early. Other times in the Gospels, it seems like he prays all night long. So this is an important thing for anyone who wants to be a disciple of Jesus, to recognize that Jesus goes out of his way. He loses sleep so that he can spend time in prayer with the Father, which is really good reflection for you and for me. Do we lose sleep so that we can pray? Do you? Do I? Do we perhaps rise very early in the morning so that we can go off to pray? Which, of course, causes the rest of the people, Simon and those who are with him, they were like looking for him, like, where is he, right? So they pursue him, they find him. So even in Jesus' time of silence and his time of prayer, he's still distracted, which I know is probably a common experience for a lot of parents. People who, in fact, I know one couple, they say, we try to get up early, but somehow, for whatever reason, whenever we get up early, the kids, it's like they find out about it somehow, and they get up early, and they interrupt our prayer. And it's like, okay, well, the Lord sees that, and he knows that experience in some ways, because Simon comes to him and distracts him, and those others as well. But then what? So Simon's like, okay, everyone's looking for you. We got to get back in there. Like, there's more people to heal. Like, there's more stuff to do. Like, this is amazing. We got to let's go, Jesus. And Jesus just says, what? No, we got to go to nearby villages so that I can preach there too, because this is why I came. For this purpose I've come, to preach, to drive out demons. To preach and to drive out demons. Remember, last week I mentioned this. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil. So it is through his preaching and through his driving out demons that Jesus is bringing freedom to people. Yes, he's absolutely concerned about this physical healing that he does, this physical setting free of infirmities, of whatever. But more than that, he's more concerned about this spiritual, this interior freedom that he's come to bring about. And this comes about by way of preaching, by way of his teaching, and by way of his driving out demons. And so he's like, okay, this isn't just for this little village. We got to go to other places. We got to go to other. So we're gonna, when we look at the gospel the second reading, we're see St. Paul talking about how he's becoming all things to all people so that he might save at least some. How the message of salvation is not just for a select group of people, but is a universal message of salvation for anyone who's willing to hear it. And so Jesus is the same way. He's like, we got to go, because it's not just for these people, it's for anyone who I can preach to, anyone who can hear my word and who will respond in faith. Which I think is a beautiful thing, because what does that include? It includes you and it includes me. That Jesus wants to preach to you. He wants to preach to me. He wants to teach you. He wants to teach me. He wants to drive out demons from you if there are some in you. He wants to set you free from that. And that is actually something that happens in baptism. In baptism, Catholic baptism anyways, there's a little exorcism that takes place where the priest or the deacon, I guess too, that prays over you and casts out demons, does a little bit of an exorcism so that you could be set free from this interior spiritual slavery that you're born into, that I was born into. Jesus preaches to you and he teaches to you even at the moment of your baptism, all the way up and through your entire Christian life. because this is why he came, to set you free, to set all of the captives free. What a beautiful gift. Okay, I look forward to sharing the next reading with you, the second reading, where we get back into 1 Corinthians. God bless you.